The sad reality of 70 years of wokeness. And we have been plagued by this for some time now, and at first it started out as just feminism in the 1950s. And it started out pretty harmless, pretty small movement, and I support that original movement. But today it has gone crazy, it has gone way too far. And not only feminism, we have a new movement called equality, wokeism. We all have to be the same. Men and women have to be the exact same copies of each other, like NPCs, standing in line, like the same robot over and over again. Maybe you have seen the movie I, Robot, and this is not just a harmless, random movement. This movement has actually begun to take some ground, and we can see the effects of that movement, feminism and wokeism in real life. And in this video, I will talk about 5 effects of these movements. And let me tell you, because of this, our lives in the West have drastically changed. We think that we have somehow evolved as men and women, that we now don't need any gender roles. We don't need tradition, we can find our own path. And for thousands of years it has worked. But let's take a look at the effects of those, movements, of those 70 years of wokeism and feminism, because it is a harsh reality to actually believe. The first one is the divorce rates. And the divorce rates are up at 60% in some European countries. So that means 60% of all marriages end up in divorce. That's crazy compared to back in the day, I don't know the exact numbers, but back in the day, I will maybe I can find some stats on that, but I think back in the day the divorce rates were like 10%, because it wasn't generally accepted to get divorced, because most of the people were actually religious. And it wasn't actually accepted to divorce. And if you were going through some hard time, you would actually work it out as partners. You would actually do everything you could to prevent a divorce. And even if you had some struggles, with your partners, you would be in a church community, and everybody around you would help you, get through that period. But, today the feminist movement is telling women that it is okay, you go girl, you be strong and independent. You don't need no man, you can just divorce him whenever it gets rough, And that's what people do whenever they get into a small argument, or, they meet somebody who is, better looking. They will go to that other person, they will just give up their marriage, And maybe they will even have kids. And that's where we see a generation of basically fatherless homes. Because if people divorce with kids, the mother gets all the kids, of course, because she has more rights. Most of the time, if she's a drunk bastard or anything like this, she won't get the kids. But most of the time, the woman will get the kids. And what do you think that the effect is on a child, growing up without a father? Of course, for a boy that's detrimental, but also for a girl, because she needs a father figure in her life, to tell her the rules and stuff like this. You cannot just raise children without a father or without a mother. You need both parties in there to have a successful child. The second effect of 70 years of wokeism, idealistic craziness, is birth rates. Back in the days, we were all in religious communities. Most of us were religious, right? It was normal just to have 5, 6, 7 kids, maybe even more. I actually had a boss back in the days. He was religious and he had 14 kids. 14, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But back in the days, we are all like this. But today, the average birth rate is 1.2 kids per family. So for each man and woman, there would be 1.2 kids. And that's even less to replace them. You can even replace them. So we are basically going down in population in the West. And if you compare that to some African countries who are still in that tradition of making a lot of kids, it's crazy, because I looked at some statistics and I found some statistics, on some African countries, and basically the average children per family in this country. I don't know how to call it. Like, is it Niger or is it Niger, or how to pronounce this name? But 6.6 children for each family. That's the average. It's crazy compared to the West. In a few years, they will overtake the world because we refuse to make more children. The third reason is women choose careers over family. So in the modern day, women are basically choosing their careers over making a family. Back in the days, when you were 18, 19, the main goal of a woman would be finding a good husband to start a family. But today, the main goal is basically fuck around. Joking, but just focus on your career, because you need some money. You need to be independent and strong. You need to make your own money. And basically women are putting off starting a family, and the whole dynamic of men and women have changed. So it's not only women's fault, but men and women are getting together less and less, and we are making less children. We are less attracted to each other. So the other day I read a very interesting article, and it stated basically that women who stay at home are happier than women who work. Women who stay at home raising their kids, raising a family, are happier than just women who work all day long. And the reason because of that is because work is basically a masculine thing. Working hard every day is basically a masculine thing, and men are good at it. Women can do it as well, but you need to develop a lot of masculine traits to actually go to work every day. And of course, women can adapt those masculine responsibilities, but it will result in more depression. And it's pretty logical, because women who are settled with all those masculine responsibilities are often more depressed because they are not made to be masculine. Of course, they can adapt the masculine skills, but it is not their main purpose. Their main purpose is starting a family, being a mother, and this is also a reason why the birth rates are so low. But today women are choosing their careers over motherhood. They keep working. Another effect of 70 years of wokeness is basically a new definition of gender roles. We all need to be equal. We all need to be mindless NPCs. We all need to be the same. It almost sounds like a horror movie. Men are basically going their own way, and men don't want women anymore because most women in the West are too masculine for them. They will tell you, well, he can't handle me. But she doesn't tell you that she is way too masculine and he is basically way too feminine. So men are not attracted to masculine women anymore, So they rather play video games and watch some porn, because that's way easier than just getting a woman in today's age. And this is where polarization comes in. And polarization is basically... Polarization means that something is different. So at the one end of the spectrum, you've got feminine energy, and the other you've got masculine energy. And this means they are polarized. They are the opposites of each other. But in today's day and age, we have been pushed to be equal, to be the same. So men are basically way too feminine, and women are way too masculine. And sometimes they're even more masculine than men. I know women who are more masculine than men, and that's fucking crazy. So a lot of the men are not attracted to women anymore, and they basically don't want anything to do with those masculine women. They are much too masculine. And I can relate to this, being in a gym and talking to some women, sometimes you can see them. You can see it in their eyes. They are masculine, So instead of dealing with those masculine women, who are pretty hard to actually get, men are choosing to go their own way. Men are basically just playing video games and watching porn all day, because that's much easier than getting a masculine woman. And on the same side, women don't need men anymore, because back in the days, women needed men because men were the providers of the family, because they accepted the gender roles. But today, women are also working very hard, and oftentimes even earning more than men do. So they don't need a man anymore because they earn enough money. And basically, they only need men for a quick hookup, but not to start a family. The fifth effect of 70 years of wokeism is that men are seeking women abroad. And this is a very interesting one because men are seeking traditional women abroad, so not in the West. So they will go to countries like Asia or Eastern Europe, Russia. Men are seeking relief from the fattest, most opinionated, most expensive, most man-hating, most offensive, most entitled women in the world. And there are many countries apart from the West where the tradition is still strong, where gender roles are still accepted, where men want to be the main provider of the family and women want to be the main caregiver and caretaker of the children. And to be honest, I actually looked into this the other day because I was very interested in this because I heard about this a few weeks ago, and I also saw some videos from Hamza. So I looked into this. I actually found some videos about, a Russian girl, asking other Russian girls about dating, marriage. And I was actually kind of surprised to hear that women there are actually embracing the gender roles. They are embracing the fact that they want motherhood, they want a family, they want to be the main caregiver of a family. And actually they want a strong masculine male. And they themselves want to be feminine, want to be less strong. They actually told the reporter in the video like, yeah, I want to be less strong than a man. I want a man to be stronger than me. And when I saw this, I was kind of surprised, but it also made me happy to realize that tradition in other countries is still going strong. And it actually made me think about the possibilities of actually moving to such a country, And women are furious about this fact, When you see this online, women are actually furious about the fact that men basically call them inadequate, not high value anymore, because let's be honest, they aren't high value, High value means, for me, a woman who is embracing tradition, who has a low body count, who's feminine, who is very, very sweet, who's, caring, not argumentative. So that's a high value woman for me. But if you go by that definition today, most women are actually quite low value. There might be some high value girls out there, but it's quite crazy. It's quite funny because women are furious about the fact that men are looking abroad for women, and they cannot get a man here, And to be clear, I am not blaming women here. I'm blaming men and women. Women are being way too masculine, men are being way too feminine. And on top of that, our tradition is being broken by this, feminist wokeism movement, by our government who is trying to make us weak, who is trying to put all kinds of propaganda in our movies, in our news outlets, to make us follow a certain, path, a certain new age bullshit path, And it is our job as men to reject that bullshit. Because so many men are basically falling into this trap. And it's it's very scary actually. I am actually very worried about my future, my future ability to get a real woman, to start a real family. Spartans, prepare for glory.